Welcome to My Money, Your Money, a talk show on generational wealth, wealth management, and personal finance. Now introducing our host, Miss Brigette Lumpkins.
Hello, beautiful people. Happy New Year and welcome to My Money, Your Money, brought to you by our generous sponsors, Demesman and Dover Accident Attorneys. I'm your host, Brigette Lumpkins. I earned an MBA from Wharton and have worked at firms such as Goldman Sachs and Lehman Brothers, doing various roles in client service, serving institutional and private clients and raising capital for institutional asset managers. Currently, I am an executive at a crypto asset management firm in Miami. Today, we are graced by a repeat guest. In light of all the overspending many of us did over the holidays, personally, I did my overspending a little earlier in the year, but I'm going to get that right this month. And I'd like to welcome back Michelle Adderley, who is an entrepreneur, world traveler, speaker, coach, and consultant with a successful financial consulting firm called Grossboro Financial Group in Miami. She's been an advisor since 2013 with a focus on finance and business strategy for individuals and families at various stages of life. Welcome back, Michelle. Please remind our audience a bit more about your background.
My name is Michelle Adderley, as Brigitte said, and I help reduce the stress of money and credit for individuals and businesses. So I've been in business for quite some time. I'm not going to give you the years because I don't want to date myself. For quite some time, I've been in business. And but thanks for having me here. Thanks for having me back.
It's a pleasure to have you back. You're my first repeat guest. I'm so honored and so excited.
Happy New Year again.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's so funny because I think a lot of people have this stress in January. And I know I do the same thing. Part of the way you're compensated in my field is you're paid a base salary, which you try to live on. And you're getting a bonus in like January or February. So that sort of fourth quarter of the year, your credit card balances tend to creep up because you're getting paid and you hope you don't lose your job. And that's not good money management, but we all do it in my field.
Right.
And I know a lot of people do that, but some of them without the specter of a bonus. So to the many people that ran up their credit card debt over the holiday season, what advice do you have now that it's done?
Pray.
Oh my God. Okay. That's good advice. I think that, but prayer without works, right?
Right. So it's dead, right?
What's the works part?
So I would advise at this particular time is to gather all of your credit cards, gather all of their credit cards and the statements. And we spoke before about understanding when your statement dates are. So you want to make sure that you gather all of your statements and you want to take a look at your balances. You want to take a look at your credit limits. And you also want to look at your due dates and you want to look at your statement dates. So those are 4 things that I ask clients to be mindful of. And so once they do that and put it together on a spreadsheet, then they'll be best to assess how to pay those items down. Okay, so that is the balance, the credit line, the due date, and the statement dates.
Okay. So I just wrote that down, by the way. I wrote that down for myself. So, back in the day, I'm not going to say how long ago it was. It was a long time ago. I was very young and this is before I worked in finance and had this sort of salary bonus structure and had gotten in over my head just out of sheer kind of poverty. And so, but I got a job that was paying just a little bit more. And so I was like, I'm going to pay this off. But I went to a credit counseling service. And I don't know that was helpful to me. Do those things still exist? What's the sort of 2022 version of those services? And is that a good option for someone who's like, oh no, I've overspent. I really need to get a handle on this. I'll call this 800 number or whatever it is, or click on this link or respond to this text, right? And get it handled. What say you about that?
Well, some people need credit, consultation and counseling for those who have spending problems, right?
Mhm.
But I like to have the client work on it themselves so they'll understand how they got themselves in that situation from the beginning, right? So they won't get themselves in that situation again. Most credit counseling services will do it for you. So it's kind of like a DIY debt consolidation. They'll put all your debt together and they do a snowball effect or whatever. That sometimes it works depending on if you have a reputable company, and sometimes it messes up your credit a whole lot more because they're only paying a small portion of it.
Right.
And sometimes you end up getting 30 days late, but you have no debt at the end and you have bad and horrible credit. So I would suggest that people just get with someone that you can trust. I'm available, but get with
Okay,
someone
that's
that you
great.
can trust,
And what's
right?
your website again, really quick, so we can drop it in for people right away?
www.grosborogh.com.
Okay, we'll get that going in the scroll so people
Right.
can see that.
So, and I would just suggest that they take a look, just like I just stated, just take a look, bring all of your bills in. And the reason why most people get into issues, the issues that they have, is because they don't know. They don't know, they don't look at it, they're afraid of it, so they don't approach the situation. They won't look at their bills. Some people just won't even open their mail. And I've had clients who called me and say, "Oh my gosh, I opened my mail and I had a check or refund from 3 years ago, or a bank account that I had, or whatever. There was $500, $700 or whatever in there because they opened up their mail." So I always suggest that you just get all of your bills together, all of your liabilities, right? Get them all together, put it, like they would say, put all your cards on the table, and let's see what we're working with and how we can just chunk that down, because you can only eat an elephant, one piece at a time.
One bite at a time. That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I got really lucky with my situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so it didn't ruin me even for 7 years or anything like that. It actually helped me unwind that whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was grateful for it, but I think that was like sheer luck. And it was so long ago, I don't even know if that company is around anymore. Now,
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about credit and your credit card usage, some people are like, okay, I got 4 credit cards. Let's call it $40,000 worth of credit. I got
Mm-hmm.
$40,000 to spend. And, a lot of people don't know that their credit score, which we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I really want to talk about like debt repayment and everything. But like that 30% usage rule, how is that used by credit bureaus to determine your credit score? And how is that a good barometer of whether you're overspending?
Right. So when it comes down to the 30%, you want to take everything that you have available, right? You take that number, say for instance, it's $40,000, like you said, and 30% of that $40,000 is $12,000. That's all you have.
Right.
That's all you
Well,
actually
I mean,
have.
so wait, but tell us more about that. I mean, I understand that, but like,
Mhm.
I think somebody who has this $40,000 is like, that isn't all I have. I have another $28,000 to spend. So why, if I have 40,000 in available credit, do I only have 12,000 to spend? Why is that?
Be- because that is their gauge. That's the gauge of whether or not you're responsible or not with the money that they've given you. They actually don't want you to spend the $40,000 that they've given you. It's only 30%. That is the rule. That's the law. That's a part of breaking down that 100%. If you look at your credit score, and your credit score is broken down into like a pie chart. And I always tell people, look at it as a pie, because that's the way that you would learn it. And it's 35% of the pie is your biggest part of the pie, and that is your payment history. How well have you handled yourself over the long period of time of since you've had access to credit, which is normally 18 years of age that the majority of us started with credit. So
Yeah.
that payment history is your 35% chunk, right? Then that 30% of that 100% is the utilization. How are you utilizing your credit, right? So how are you spending your credit? that 30% is the 30%. Okay. In that whole 100%
Yes.
factor. Okay.
Okay. That's a good mnemonic.
Right. Then you have your 15%, which is the established amount of credit, which is the history, okay, of your credit. Then you have your 10%, which is the new credit that you spend, and then another 10%. So you think about it as 35, 30, 15, 10, 10. So your new credit and then the diversity of credit. So when they talk about sometimes when you go and they say, well, do you have an installment line of credit, which is your mortgages, your vehicles, any loans, your student loans? Do you have any revolving type of credit, which are all of your credit cards? So do you have a diversity or a mix of credit? All of that is calculated in that 100% pie that you have. So I always tell clients, be mindful of credit cards that are older, that you say, I don't use that credit card any longer, so I'm going to cut it off. No.
Right.
Because remember, that's that 15%. They'll chop it off.
Right. I made that mistake once trying to clean things up and paying everything off. And I thought I was doing such a good job. And I closed all these store credit cards that I never used and was very proud of not having used. And then I realized that was not smart.
Right. I have a sorority sister that called and we spoke about this the other day. And she was like, oh my gosh, remember when I closed my Sears credit card? She had a Sears credit card from like 1980 that she had not been using. And she was like, I don't go to Sears. So I closed it. I said, you did what? That was like a 40-year-old credit card. She closed it. Yeah. So she was wondering why her credit score went down tremendously. Is because she closed the oldest card that was on her credit report. That is something that you don't want to do.
That's so counterintuitive too, because, if you're trying to have a clean sort of balance sheet and just tidy up your records and not have, I guess, sort of financial clutter or whatever, or just tempt yourself. I mean, I guess they want to know that you can have it in front of you and not use it. It goes to your utilization rate. But I think that's a really important tip that a lot of people don't understand. So that's really helpful. Now, what's considered a bad, average, and a good credit score? And like, what's the range? It's like 200 to 800, right?
Right. Well, you have zero. And I've had clients that had zero.
It's kind of like SAT scores. I guess you could always just like not even put your name on the test.
Right. So you have, so you have 0 to 850, right?
Okay.
So, and we just always say team 800, hashtag team 800. That's our goal. That's where we want to get to. Everyone wants to get to 800 as a bragging right. But once you get at 740, you get just about, in some situations, the same interest rate that you would get with the 850 credit score. Under 600. So we're gonna. It depends on where the scoring modules are. What type of entity you're dealing with, and so it's so many different scoring modules. And so the ranges are different. So for me, I would say under 600 is a bad credit score. Under 650 is a bad credit score. Under 720 is an average credit score. So between 680 and 720 is an average credit score. 720 above is basically, a good credit score. I would say once you get to about 740, like I said, 740, and it's so crazy because that 720 to 740 range is a really interesting range because I've seen some things happen there where, it's a big jump and or decrease in interest rates, if you understand, if I said that right. So you have like a 720 credit score, you can get something like 5 or 6% interest rate. If you have a 740 credit score, which is only 20 points, you're probably around 1.9 or 2% interest rate.
Right. I think that 740 level is something that requires a level of consistency that people who bounce around below that may
Right.
sort of like bounce around below that. Like people who run up their credit at the end of the year and then like pay it off and then like, you know what I mean? And stuff like that, because, you know, credit scores do fluctuate actually quite frequently depending on your level of activity.
Absolutely.
Or can. And they can also be different among the different credit bureaus.
Right. It can be different among the different credit bureaus. It can be different among the different reporting agencies. The monitoring services have different credit scoring modules, right? So with those, that's why I always tell people they go to Credit Karma or something like that. When normally when you're paying for free, you're going to get some mess. You're not going to get an accurate number. If you're really, really serious about building up your credit score, you want to go to some of the monitoring services that are owned by the credit reporting agencies or myfico.com, right? It's more expensive, but you're going to get the credit score. Majority of the data furnishers, which are your credit card companies, are utilizing. So they kind of like stay in the same range as to whatever my FICO is using, which is FICO 10. That's where the majority of the companies are staying with. They're utilizing that scoring module. So we can go on and on about scoring modules, but you just have to really know that if you go to a mortgage company, the score that you have at a mortgage company, it may be different than what you have at a car dealership. Car dealerships are normally at FICO 8. Mortgage companies may be at FICO 8. They may sometimes use the FICO 10. So you never know, you know. And then if you ask the majority of the times, the underwriters or the people who work there, they don't know which model that they're using. They just know that your score is either good or it's bad.
Right. So I want to focus on really like the practical advice that people can use because, you know, I always was led to believe that if you have the tenacity and the time and patience, you could write the credit bureaus and get this information for free, that you're entitled to it. Is that
which information are you discussing that they can get for free?
Like your credit history,
right? Yes.
And subsequently your credit score.
Right. So every year at the beginning of the year, well, since COVID, they have changed the law, where you can get your credit score not credit score, but your credit report for free just about every month.
Right.
But if you go to annualcreditreport.com, you can pull down your credit report online, or you can request that it's mailed to you. I always advise to get it mailed to you from the 3 different credit bureaus, so you can see if there are any inaccuracies that are on your credit report, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of inaccuracies that are on credit reports. Your names are spelled differently. Your addresses are are different. Some of them are spelled differently. So, you know, you're commingled with other people who have the same name as you. So it's always important to get a copy of your credit reports from all 3 different bureaus. That's Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. And then you want to go to the 4th one, actually, to Enovis, to get a copy of that particular credit report as well. And then you want to put them all on the table. You get you some highlighters, and you want to make sure that you go through every last one of them and find look to see if there are any inaccuracies that are on your credit report.
Okay, so I want to go back to the repaying of balances, right? Because again, I think that's like really practical advice to people who are like, okay, I just spent $5,000, right? I can't stroke at that $5,000 check. I spent it over 3 cards. I want to get this back down to 0 by the end of the year so I can do it all over again. No, I'm just kidding. You're not going to do it again next year.
No, they do.
Next year, you're going to
next month they do it over again.
You're going to make crafts or use layaway. But how do people? So you have 3 credit cards. They're going to have different interest rates. Probably they're going to have different balances and different limits. how do you prioritize paying them off, right? Because some people might go for the smallest balance first or the biggest balance first, or like what's the best way to, if you're doing this yourself and you're not, if you're trying to DIY your
Right.
credit repayment, what's the best technique?
I would say do the smallest one first, because that gives you momentum, right? So when you look, if you're stressed, you're under stress, right, about your debt, the smallest one that you have there, always put everything on automatic deduction for the minimum anyway. When
Right.
you're paying, when you have any credit card, you set every last credit card up on the minimum balance for the due date. Every last one of them, regardless if you're paying them down or you're not, just put it on automatic deduction, right? Because you don't want to forget that $25 minimum payment and then end up with a 30-day late, because that will kill you in the process. So in order to keep momentum in the debt repayment process, I would say pay down the first one that has the lowest balance, right? So you'll have momentum, you'll look and you'll see the zero. You say, oh my gosh, I did that, right? And then you go to the next one and you say, okay, I did that as well. So I have a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet will be up on January 15th on our website. And that spreadsheet will be the spreadsheet that I utilize for all of my clients. And it has all of the information I just told you about. It will have the name of the company, the address, when it's due, when how much credit you have available, when the balance is, what is the 30% of that particular card. So if you have a total of $5,000 and you have one card that's at $2,000, the other card is at $3,000, that 30% in that space, the computer will automatically tell you what 30% of that $2,000 is, which is $600. It's going to tell you once you get down to $600, if you're at $1,200 and now you get down to $600, bingo, you're almost there. Okay.
Right.
And then if you decide that you want to go ahead and pay that card off, then you can go ahead and pay that card off a little bit further. But all you have to do in order to be in the good graces of the credit, the credit scoring module, to be in the good graces of that 30%, you are there. Congratulations, you've gotten down to 30%. Okay, so that will be available for clients to come in, or everyone to come in and take a look at it, download it, and utilize that particular spreadsheet. So that will be available.
Okay. And do you have any rules of thumb with regard to income and debt load and how quickly people can realistically pay off their balances? And I also noticed it's really interesting because you really are suggesting a psychological model for paying these off, where I've also seen models that are based mathematically on interest rate or whatever. And really, because if you think about it, in this day and age, back in the day, I used to have to write checks, and there was a much bigger psychological impact every dime that I owed. And now I don't see that money. I don't transact it because I set it to automatic. And so for me personally, I would care more about like the progress, like the arc of the progress. Do you model the arc of the progress? Do you have tools to do that so that people can choose, do you want to choose a psychological model or a mathematical model in terms of how the order in which you repay your debt? Because some people may be more motivated by the mathematical model. Like I know I would. I don't care how small it is. I want to pay the most expensive debt off quickest, because I would keep a $500 balance if it's at 0%. I don't care, because it's free money.
Right.
So but if I have a $20,000 balance at 20%, I need to be chipping away at that. That $500 doesn't mean anything to me. It won't help me psychologically.
Right. And it really depends on the client. So I just the smallest debt. I like that to be paid off first, because I want them to have momentum. Right. And that's where you start the momentum. Then you can go and find out whether or not that person is psychologically motivated, or, they're motivated by the financial part of it. But, we just sit down and we take a realistic approach and to the situation and say, okay, yeah, yeah, this interest is really, really killing you and you need to pay it all off or you need to pay it down because, and when you show clients the interest that they're paying and they're wondering why, oh my goodness, I've been paying on this for 5 years and it's going to take me 5 years to pay it off. That's why I always say, look at your declaration pages, right? On the declaration pages, when you get your credit card, it's going to tell you what your interest rates are. It's going to tell you all the fees. It's going to tell you everything as it relates to that particular card. So when you have your declaration page and you look at the 29% and then you get your statement and you look at the 29% once you carry a balance, it becomes, Brigitte, at that time, it becomes realistic to them, right? When they look on when they look on their statement and they see that interest rate actually, and it's factual right there on their statement, it says, okay, you paid, your interest rate was $70. Your minimum due was $85. So you're only paying $15 towards that balance. Then it's a shocker. And they say, oh, okay, I'm not even using that card anymore. No, those Christian Louboutins were not, and I tell them, those Christian Louboutins were not $750.
Right.
Times 29% times the sales tax and the compound interest on that. Okay, so were those shoes on sale?
No, I mean, no, absolutely not. Like they were. It's so funny. And people, average people are not educated on compounding interest. And so they really don't understand these concepts mathematically. So it's very hard, especially because people have such an emotional tie to not only the objects they buy, but the way they manage their money. And this is why people don't open their mail. I mean, nothing's going to happen when you open the mail. It's an emotional reaction. It doesn't change your reality. I have a stack of mail unopened in front of me, literally right now, sitting behind the computer. I felt a little attacked when you said that, to be honest. I was like, is she looking over my shoulder? But I feel like even people who are, well educated on these topics like me and literally have managed portfolios worth, millions of dollars for other people. It's still it's something that's very deeply ingrained how we psychologically manage these things. And I hate to say it, but we're running out of time. So
always.
I know. So, really in these last few moments that we have together, I'd love to get thoughts from you, sort of takeaways and what you want people to be thinking about as they sort of wrap their arms around the self-inflicted, pickles we put ourselves in financially with our credit cards over the last month or so, or a couple of months with the holiday season, and how we can unwind that. And also, I think another topic is how you not do that, because that's a whole other conversation. So how do you fix it?
Well, it's emotions. It's mindset. That's another thing. Why are you doing the things that you're doing to hurt yourself? Why is this self-inflicted? And so it goes a little deeper when it comes down to spending, and I don't want to get too deep because we're out of time, but it's mindset.
Yeah.
And so to get out of it, you just have to be patient with yourself. You have to give yourself grace. You say, okay, I did that. I take full responsibility. Now I'm going to take full responsibility. I'm going to carve out the time and I'm going to be intentional with what it is that I'm doing right now. I'm going to be intentional with my spending and my repayment. I'm going to be intentional with chopping this thing down because I am responsible. So, the first step, the first step in recovery, I think,
and downloading your spreadsheet, right? And
if you can, downloading that spreadsheet, so that spreadsheet is going to be available on the 15th, and they're going to find it so useful.
I'm coming for your spreadsheet.
Okay,
I can probably make my own, but why would I do that? I'd rather have yours because you have all the tricks in there.
Right, and I use it for all the business clients as well. So when they're building their business business, and they can take a look at their personal credit as well as take a look at their business credit, and that helps them out. But it's all, it's just money and it's credit. So we just have to match those things up at the right time and the best time for you and your household, and make sure that you're not causing any issues in your relationship or your marriage. That's another thing. That's another topic about money and relationships.
We need like a whole series. You'll have to be a recurring guest, and we'll just have these different topics.
Right. So just make sure that you're not too hard on yourself, because one thing that, Brigitte, I don't want to happen. And I had a friend in the past that took her life behind finances. And I want to make sure that no one gets to that point where they feel that they can't go on because they made a bad decision, or they can't go on because they don't understand. Because she was a professional at what she did, she felt like she was a failure when it came to money and the responsibilities of money. And I tell her, I have clients that are neurosurgeons. I have clients that are whatever. It doesn't matter what you do. Money and credit is not who you are, right? That's not who you are. It's just that you studied, 8 or 10 years in this field. You didn't study money. No one taught us money. There was no class. And even for those clients that I have that are CPAs, I have CPAs that don't understand how to matriculate through this capitalistic society of credit, right? They don't understand all of the.
I have stories. I know CPAs. I know investment bankers. I know a lot of people
that don't understand credit,
or that just don't manage it correctly. I know CPAs who got assets seized by the IRS.
Yes.
CPAs. Yes. So, it's not, there should be no shame. You're in good company if you've overspent and you're overextended and you're trying to figure out how to get out of it, or you missed a couple payments. There's no sign of that. And what you said about feeling like, you don't want to go on because of these issues, that resonated very strongly with me personally. And I just want to mention that if there's anyone out there who feels that way, please call the suicide prevention hotline at 800-273-8255, because there's nothing worth taking your life over. And we want to make sure that people who feel despair, because that's very common this time of year.
Yes.
Feel that they have an outlet and their support for them, and nothing that we're talking about is worth that. So, but to end on a lighter note, it is always a pleasure. And I think that what you offer are such pearls of wisdom and tools, practical tools to help people, just get themselves in a better position so that they can live more stress-free and accomplish some of the things they want that require money to accomplish. So thank you, Michelle, for joining.
Thank you for having me so much. And Happy New Year.
Wishes for a healthy, prosperous 2022.
As well.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to invite our audience to view our other Miami Media Group shows. First, we have, First, we have on Mondays, The Business of Black Business at 1 p.m. with Jay Reynolds. I got that wrong. Let's start over again. With Jay Reynolds. Tuesday, My Money, Your Money at 7 p.m. with myself, Brigette Lumpkins. And Wednesday, Soul with Nikki Gellin at 7 p.m. And The Taste of South Florida with the legendary Chef Irie at 7 p.m. on Thursdays. Oh, I'm going to get in so much trouble for messing that up. But y'all know what our shows are. And it is so good to be back with you. Have a happy new year. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.